Yeah. Well, you're all set. I'm all set. We are live. I'm going to go ahead and introduce yourself, and then I'm going to hop in the background and handle chat. Welcome to ChatLoopBackOff, everyone. And today we're doing score, which you'll find at score.dev. And Amim, take us away.
Hello, folks. My name is Amim Knabben. I am a CNCF ambassador and a software engineer at Broadcom. I'm here with Georgie in the background to lead the show. So, any questions that you have, anything that you want to collaborate and talk and express yourself in the chat, we are trying to bring this in the screen and interact this as much as possible. So the episode today is about a new project that just joined CNCF as a sandbox project. This is going to be an interesting one. I didn't know it before. So we are going to take a look on the documentation, run some examples, and see how it goes. It's a pretty interesting way to run the containers and use one configuration to run multiple containers as we're going to see. So that's the main page of the project. This show, normally we don't use much the upfront what project we are going to test. So for this experimentation, there's some news to me. So the approach that I like to do is going to the project, the history, documentation, website, and start to take a look around and explore after with GitHub, download the project, compiling the project locally, and trying to understand the use case that the problem that the project is trying to solve. So after I understand that, I try to see how it matches on my workflow, see how I can use these on my daily basis. Right, this is a good way to learn new projects. We have a bunch of things inside this landscape of CNCF. So if you create kind of pattern of explorations, you can get the categories of projects in these categories and discover new things that can solve daily issues. So CNCF escape. I think before we go into the project, let's do an overview of what we have right now. So people is aware of what I'm talking about. So the CNCF posts a lot of these projects here. They split these by categories. In the topic here, we have application. There we have configuration, continuous integration, delivery, streaming, and master. So when you need something that applies to your reality and you want to solve a specific problem, you just go here and look in the category that you want to find a project related to. So the project here is a new project. I don't know where score is in this map. Maybe it's not here. Maybe it is. It's too much projects. I don't know. But come here in the landscape. You can search for projects here. Score is here. Great. You can. So this is a good way to start exploring the project, right? So it went in sandbox in July. So it's an open source workload specification designed to simplify the development of cloud native developers. So in our case, let's suppose we have multiple environments with applications, and I want to normalize the specification that I want to introduce my project. So imagine I have a container, I create my own container, I want to run compose and Helm or compose and Kubernetes, Docker compose and Kubernetes. And then I want to get the same skeleton, the same dynamic that I'm using to split across different projects, share these different projects. So this is a very good, interesting project that I want to learn in the past or that existed in the past, because I had, as a developer, a lot of this kind of problems when you have this local development and production, for example. So the crazy thing is in the past, I did Minikube on my computer to try to emulate the production environment on a very bad computer, and running Kubernetes on a virtual machine inside this machine is pretty crazy. So if you have one way to normalize everything in one specification, one defined specification, you can like generate different different specifications on top of this unique one, right? So that is in the CNCF dashboard. You can see like the state stars, the GitHub specification. There is a lot of stars. There is 11 contributors. First commit 22, and the project is still going on, right? So this is another thing that when I want to adopt a project, I like to see like, is the project going on? Is the project having some movements in the last few weeks or few months? Is the project active before adapting this thing, right? So the Landbox is a good place to start looking at it. Let's close this. If you guys want to take a look in the past episodes before we deep dive on the project, there is a playlist enable. You can go in the playlist, take a look there, look around in what this. I don't know the case, interesting projects going on. There are people that are more expert in this project as well. It's like very good overviews. I hope this one is as good as the others. If you are interested in Porter, I hosted the other Porter on episode 18. So for the news, I want to share one quick news here. We are hosting the KCD Florianopolis, the island I live on. This is like South Brazil. If you search Florianopolis in Google, you're going to see like 42 beaches around the island. So for sure, I don't want to. We need a quesadilla here, right? You need shrimp in the beach with beers and everything. That's what you need. You can use one day to stay in the quesadilla on the room with other people. But the other days that just come in December, we are going to host the event here, so you can hang around and just have fun, right? So this will be December 6th. This is in Portuguese for sure. So the call for paper is open. We call for sponsors open. And we have the first batch of tickets. The tickets are open as well, right? So go there, take a look in the community. That's sponsored by our community group. Those are the organizer, and this will be very fun. I hope to see you there. Coming back, so score applied to be a CNCF sandbox. They published a post here. Come take a look in what they are doing. There are some pretty cool stuff. So the idea is like to be developer centric. They spec the develop centralize this kind of workloads definitions, expose a common workload level properties. So we have this initial specification, but they deliver as well a runtime and implementation of this specification. It's platform agnostic. We are going to show in the end some custom implementation on top of this specification that I hope my demo goes well. And they have some very customized resources definition, as are going to see in one of the examples, but it's possible like to extend very easily the way you create specific resources, custom resources, right? So the score launched in 2022. Our folks are improving the user experience, and then they developed two implementation here: the score compose that they delivered and is still used, and seems to be the full implementation that they are asking people to look at when are going to create a new one. and Score Helm that's deprecated by some reason. I didn't go through why it's deprecated, but the repositories are archived, right? So if you want interested in develop like this Score Helm, take a look in how it was developed. Maybe someone in the chat here can come and talk about why was discontinued. And the other implementation that they have after that was Score K8s that we're going to see running as well soon. But seems that both are like the reference implementation right now. They have some money tech as well for their platform. You're going to see their website, but does it seems that's something internal? I don't know where. I didn't see the code for that. Okay, so submitted it as a sandbox. This is the issue. If you're interested in the issue, I'm gonna send here in the chat. I think that's one of the cool parts of this entire process of like applying to the CNCF, because you need like to do description, summarize, define what problem you're trying to solve, and give some like contributions, guides, and code of conducts. You need to fill out a form where gives your project some kind of standard excellence standard, let's say, to enter in the landscape. So this creates a bar where you need to hit in order to be applied. And glad to see that the project provide a lot of information here on how things works. So let's take a look in the vendors. So who built the projects? Humanitech. Remember, they had some cool sticks at Dev Cubicle. So Score is part of a bigger part of their product. Go take a look as well. I didn't look the other part, but they open source this is specific tooling. But I saw in their website a very good diagram here on how it fits in the entire page, right? So if you have a developer here where you define like this Score YAML, this is base specification that's shared everywhere for all the other implementations. So this is the specification where you can send like API version, metadata, containers, resources. This goes in the CI or like some kind of automating tooling, and this goes in the platform orchestrator. So this is like the black box, right? In the end, this will like output this workload different places. So you can have like this translated not only in environments, but you can like define like types and environments and build out your specification from based on one shared standard specification to new like it's like those Sheen's layers, right? So these new specifications for specialized clusters or specialized cloud. So you can get the same information translated like to AKS or Azure or like in different place. Since their platform is pretty cool for that. So the part that we're going to see today is only this translation layer with some custom implementations that they provide in the open source part, right? If you have any questions, like if you want to present something, have some, just post here in the chat. Okay. Let me close these things here. So the first thing is going to the documentation. They have some initial documentation. It seems like things are still going on. They have like divided by the specification here, all the steps that explaining the initial specification and the schema that they provide, and they bring here some other implementations. As I say, they have compose in K8s as the base. But if you go in like help and human tech, that's probably used to integrate in that orchestrator that they has as their product. And there is some how-to guides here. I didn't went in this how guides. We can go if you have time, but basically it shows you how to integrate in GitHub Actions, other CI/CD pipelines. If you get like the GitHub Actions here, you can run score compose, passing your score information that are probably committing in the root, and this will like translate for you some other specification that can be applied for you to test in your CI or even automate. So it shows some very cool how-to articles. Okay, now going into the specification. I think they have a web page. We go in the code later. I have some. I have went into the code for, and then I think there is more information in the code than in the documentation. It like seems clear the code for if you stop and see like what's going on there, right? So that's how it looks like. The specification here, if you see like API version, metadata, it seems very similar to the Kubernetes API, but it's not. This API is another specification, like some version of object kind that's similar as well. So there is, if you want beta 1, is related with a specific schema from Score. It's not Code's API. We have the metadata. There is a name for that, a list of containers that we're going to run. So you see here that the container is very similar to the pod container. We have like image commands, variables or arguments, but similar to the compose Docker, a Docker container as well, right? It's similar to a pod and similar to a Docker container. So if you think a little bit about that, you can see like it's not an easy thing, but it's possible like to extract and this for other mutate specific scenarios, right? We have resources, and this is a interesting part that they're going to see later. Like just say DB type Postgres, and boom, you have a Postgres where you can here, right? So you have like the resource DB username, the resource DB password, and that's magic. I really like it this part because you don't need like to put a lot of information, but I do believe you can pass some hard-coded information. If I want to change the host or the port here, I probably can pass, but otherwise this will use some defaults that I don't know where it is right now. I like this because it's very lean and can be customizable at the same time. So the service, and you have the servers that they will it will expose the ports. Okay. All right. So basically, how it works, you have the specification here, and you have the implementation. So the implementation is like score, K8s, score, yada yada. And will bring you this kind of mutation again for your like or the manifest and format, or Helm. You probably output the Helm package. So that's simple the way it works. But it's interesting because this tool is like a standalone tool where you can integrate in your CI or in your development flow. So you can have like this binary where you just put inside a task, and this will generate for you automatically instead of like your developer need like instead of your developer creating like a Docker compose and a manifest in the same repository, you just get this common specification with structure and output this to the system, right? You can commit that in your GitHub, or you can just generate that and consume at runtime. The part that these components are standalones and is an interesting design for that. Eliminates configuration mismanagement. Okay, there is keeping your workloads. Enable separations of concerns. That's what we're talking about right now, right? So I think the idea here is pretty cool. But you need to keep in mind SCORE is not a management tool. It's not a resource and environment management system. Right? It's not a deployment tool. So instead of defining how you are going to run this thing, it just gives you the thing, right? So instead of like, oh, you need to install Docker, you need to install Python and Docker Compose and everything else, it will like give you the Docker Compose. Just keep in mind that's not like a way to create your environment. It's just a way to create the mutation of this specification here in a standard way, right? So, okay, so SCORE for the have some other information here. That is a video that we're going to run the demonstration, and I hope this works live instead of the video, but you can go in the website and watch the video as well. The specification here is very straightforward. So the workload definition is required, the containers is required as well, and the optional service, the services and the resources are optional. So you need to define your workloads, you need to define your container here. So workload definition. So the workload in the reality is only this metadata with the API servers in the top here, right? So you pass annotation as some examples of how to, I don't know, filter or like metadata informational data that you want to pass in your workload, but you need to have a version, you need to have a metadata with a name. That's part of the workload. This part's the workload. The container definition, that's the real containers that are going to be translated in that are going to be used by your. You can see here definition. That's a good example of contents here. We have like image, we have the content, that's the basic stuff, but you can extend that as well, right? So you have volumes, you have resource, live probes, and readiness probes. So this goes extending to others, and I think if you stop for a while and use some custom things, it's kind of easy to implement and extend this specification. So one interesting like what happens when, just thinking here, right? So what happens when you don't have a live probe in a specific implementation, right? We would close and not allow you to render. We would ignore with a warning, like, so if you have like Docker Compose, I don't know if Docker Compose has a liveness probe, probably has, but if it doesn't, we would break, right, when you render some specific implementation that I like when things like fail close and don't allow me to do that, or you need to pass a flag and say, I'm stupid, I'm doing something wrong. Okay, do it. Yeah, there are more containers here. Okay. Service definition. The spec is very lean, let's say. I like that. I like the way this thing is clear. So in the resource definition section here, we have, there's another interesting one. So allows user to describe the relationship between workloads and their dependent resources in an environment agnostic way. So can be anything that can be anything. Okay, resource can be anything, and score doesn't differentiate resources by type. The resource section can be used to provision multi-service setups with platform like Docker Compose. So you can have like backend services that you can set up with resources in an easy way and just consume in a real containers like a Postgres, for example, or Redis or RabbitMQ. I don't know. Whatever you want to have in the resources, you can. It can be anything. So you can pass here, you can call that. And there is one interesting thing is that, so it's about the score implementation, right? As you're going to see later, not all resources are the same. So each implementation defines these resources in a different way. So if you want like to have the same resource shared, probably it won't happen until you like change the code and do this modification. So just keep in mind like these resources are very specific. So resource type score, but can affect how they score. Okay, so this is an example. We saw that we figured out source where this value is coming from. Okay, let's take quickly. We're going like, I think let's 30 minutes like to take a look in the rest of the document and the code in the other half of the presentation, right? So the score compose CLI serves as a reference implementation for the score specification, providing a standard score CLIs. Docker compose, this is like very specific. This is on Brio, on tab, so you can download score compose. You can download that directly using Go, or you can run inside Docker, right? So you can run this as a container and probably this value somehow, right? They score YAML somehow. That's the installation details. So you have a few commands here. The init. This init is pretty interesting. I think they probably got this idea from, correct me if I'm wrong, right? I'm just guessing here. So the problem that just get this idea from Terraform, where you have this state creation. So as we're going to see, some idea of local state. I don't know if it's possible to share the state as like a folder with a lot of files on it, but yeah, or create this somewhere else with a quick command in an S3 or some other. But you have like score compose in it, and you create the local score compose state on the working directory. You can pass like custom files, no sample. So by default, there is one sample that's created. You can pass no sample and just start the state. That's probably you already have your score YAML, and we can generate. That's the other command that's important here. So you have the init to initialize the state, and you have the generate, and this generate will give us it will give us the final Docker Compose manifest, right? So instead of like, yeah, you need to initialize the state first, and then you need to generate the Docker Compose based on your score YAML. You can pass a lot of other flags here as well in the generate command, and there is some completion from calling. I think that's from the SPF 13 Cobra. There's one command here that I didn't go through, but it was run, and the run, that's the new generate. so it's deprecated. It's probably, I don't know, like why they just not rename that, or was the background behind that. But one thing that's pretty cool, that in the Docker Compose at least, they have a few examples. We are going to run a few of them. So start with basic hello, and then they use some environment, some file, multiple workloads, volume, resource provisioning, and they go like with some more complex where you can try to run if my machine allows without this streaming in camera and all this stuff, but we can like to get some more complex ones to and try to run on Compose local. Let's see here. What's the score human tech internal stuff? The score helm here. So the score helm, right? I thought we already talk about that, but they keep like here. Take a look in the code as well. And they how to go in these overrides and name variables. So I'm quite interested. Okay, not sure if my internet's all right. Visual overrides is a way for you to customize or modify aspects of the YAML. So you can like have a stack and a merge of these of the score YAML. So you have a patch. So you have a patch here. Okay. Create a score file, and then you create an override, and then when you do these YAMLs. So if you have containers, my server one, and you have a list of commands, command Python and Python version, what do you think this should output, right? If you merge like this command, what do you like to see, right? Hey, Carlos. Welcome to the ChatLoopBackOff episode 24. So if these two things merge, I would like to have Python help in the end. So this thing. True, that's true. That's the best. That's the best meme of the day. So yeah, you can do this kind of merges and overrides. I'm not sure how these things are merging, and there is quite a ways to do this YAML merge stuff. So we can try this command later. Okay, so property, you can like merge a specific property. You can remove a property. Okay, cool. And in the end, you have the environment variables, right? So it's possible to pass like variables between them. All right, enough talk. Let's test this thing. So let's start with this merge stuff, right? So I'm gonna open my tmux here. If the font size is small, we can just ping here. I can try to increase or change that, right? So I have a score compose binary already installed. I have a score KTS binary already installed. This just enter on a folder, but I have the score KTS binary installed. If you want to build these things, I just on the repositories before I was taking a look. So if you want to go and score compose, like, and want to create a binary, I didn't see any make. Maybe in the Docker file there is some builder here. No, this would just build the entire workflow for you. So what I did was to do go run, go build, compose, and then I pass the path of the score compose mango. That is where the main function exists. And then you have your score compose here. So this was a little bit odd. Maybe we could improve that with some fancy make files for local run, but I'm not sure. Maybe the correct was through out the containers, right? The containers has this entire procedure already defined. All right, so that's what I did. I just installed this score compose on my computer. So what we are going to do here is like, let's create a folder called sandbox, and let's put this file. Let's test this thing here, right? So I'm gonna put this in the side, copy that, and call this score YAML. Yeah, let's paste this guy here. This one we call overrides score YAML. And we run this command. Applying override. So applying overrides from override score to workload. And it says, okay, the state directory doesn't. So you're doing something before initializing your state locally. It's like running the state, right? So you need to do score compose init. And then this is interesting state that they save. So if you go in the state folder, you can see like they create another folder compose. And if you go in the score compose folder, we are going to see like 3 files, right? So or 2 files in one folder. So there is a new state YAML without anything on it. Even if we create one state file, doesn't mean we run that yet. So we don't have a state. We just have a file there. We didn't use a generate. We didn't consume anything based on that state directory that I didn't test, but I suppose is related to the volume mounts, and we can try some volume mounts and see what happens. And there is another file, ZZ default provisioners. So this ZZ default provisioners is where all the resources exist. So there is some definitions in the resources here, and after a while, I discovered that the resources, when you do, are only like parsable YAML files that are injected in your state, right? So when you use a resource, I was like, what black magic exists behind the scenes here? So when you run this resource, you're just like injecting this in the output of your generated compose. What's kind of interesting? So they maintain. We can see in the code later, but they keep maintaining all these chunks of code related to one specific places. Right. Now I want to override this thing. Cool. So it says applying override. That's cool. Validated the workload. I have a run Python app, successfully loaded 12 resources that were in the stack there that I can use, but I didn't use that. It just load from the state, and it converts my Docker Compose. So now Compose, and this I expect has my Compose Docker Compose file. So you can see like there is a name, there is a list of services called Run Python App My Service. Some annotations. Let's take a look in the score side by side. So if I use the score here, that's like the composed and the score YAML. So in the container, I asked to create like my service with the image. That's here, right? And the entry point for this Docker help. And I define the Python version. And then we can see the score overridden for us, the overlay that we just merged the both the override. It handles more complex examples, but for now, just merge it. This is the final output in the sandbox. So I'm using Podman here. I'm not using Docker Compose, so I'm gonna run Podman Compose. I'm terrible on Docker Compose. This stuff. Please help me. But I think it's run, and then you can run the Docker Compose. No, I missed the service. Oh my god! Run all. Up. Yeah, up. Okay. So I have a very this domain locally, but the important part is that we just run the pod compose. There is like this flow here. I don't know how to add the flow of this thing. There's some mismatching the version of specific CNI. The CNI version here should be like 0. For some reason, this bridge command is creating like a double SL environment. That's very. But if you go Docker Compose, now it's trying to pull like the new requests. Wow. Request access to resources, then I don't think this is like a private registry, but right. No container with name array found, not container. I don't think I will be able to run like this Docker Compose locally. I'll try like to set up a few things, but you got the idea. We can like generate. You can test it generation without running locally. Or let's go in the Kubernetes side. I think it's easier than like trying to figure out Docker Podman Compose on double SL too, right? So that's basically the idea. We have this sandbox here. When you generate this compute your team, you could like reuse these using Porter. Porter was another project that we had before in this presentation, and then you could create like a bundle of all this testing how you could integrate these projects and facilitate like the onboarding of your users. Imagine like you can develop more tooling and create these pipelines of like integration, and you just ask the new guy that joined your team to run for me like this command, and you have the entire environment on a Docker container with everything set up from the registry. And this kind of research that makes these things pretty cool, right? Okay, so we have like Docker Compose. We have a few examples here. We can try to run these examples, at least like just render. I can try to run locally, but I saw a lot of things breaking in the past. But let's go. So we have one example with let's take a look in the multiple workloads. So we have different containers. Yeah, I think that's one. Is it okay? They keep how to run. Example, if you have some request that things you want to see, like just put in the chat. We are trying to do that. Otherwise, we are going to go in the flow. So this is another good example, like the volume mounts. We can take a look in the state, in that folder mounts in the state. I think this will create something there, right? So let's try to do this resource data volume. We have first, and we have volumes. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is like Docker Compose init let's initialize this state locally and use Docker Compose generate score. And we have a Docker Compose here. So my Docker Compose has a specific volume with driver local, and it sets a label on that. I know it works on Docker Compose, but seems that will work. So let's try to do compose up. Grab of the plugins. 005. I'll try to figure out this later. Like, I'm not using Docker on this, but it seems something very annoying that needs to be set default for the CNI plugin. That's so when you create like Podman Compose up, it's created. So it fails to create, or maybe it just came up. Let's see if something is going on. It's not like this is my environment that's a little bit odd, right? So let's take a look in the compose here in the examples. Go in the then you have like this score compose and the mounts here. So that is not that doesn't exist nothing in the mount. So I don't know why these mounts folders here. Let's see the state if they have some. Maybe because I don't have anything in the mount, like I should have a file in the mount. I mount this on data. So if you go in Podman PS, let's try to exec inside this guy here. And here, let's create some random stuff. All right. And now I should have the mounts. No. Okay. I don't know what's that. So there is a mounts directory. So the state here keeps a copy of this state of what we're running locally. So I think if you run different things, it will keep the state container inside here. It will keep like this multiple workloads as we saw the same state that you're running locally. Okay, let's get the last one. Let's get like a Kafka topic. Everyone loves Kafka. So there is a resource called Kafka. They're creating a resource type DNS, and there is a route. That's pretty cool. That's a more advanced thing. I don't know what the route means here, but you can like consume resources from one side to the other. So it will create a DNS X, and you can. So it's interesting. It is interesting. And you have the buzz here. So so you can like just pass the Kafka topic, and magically, this is too magic. the things are happening behind the scenes that that's interesting. So you have like containers, and then the main and the variables where you consume from the resources. So let's run that score, compose, generate, and we need. Okay, init generate score. Okay, so I created. Oh, it gives me like a documentation to do. So make sure this DNS localhost resolves to localhost. Why? Remembering the other some special DNS that always resolve to the localhost. I think Brian provide us that DNS, and this is used for this use case. So you don't need like to create a domain locally. You use that, right? Little pieces on. So you have like services, the definition things like voters. We have like DNS is being generated on generate. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool actually, because it's generating a lot of boilerplate that you need to create when creating these things, right? And like if you have, it is pretty good in the reality, because you have like a Helm. Imagine you need to like to create a Kafka for Helm, for Kubernetes, for Compose. Instead, you just have like a very lean SQL where you can pass, give me a source bus, type Kafka, and then it will give you what you need. Right? That's pretty cool. I need to run this locally, for God's sake. Score, compose. All right. So before we go to the other, there is one last demo I want to show. That's like more interesting than Docker Compose, in my opinion. If you have like questions so far or other, okay, there. Let's go. So let's go in the last example here. Okay. So I spent the last. Can I increase the font for that? I spent quite a while trying to understand. Let's go here in the terminal. So quite a while trying to understand a new specification here. Score spec, score, and I create something specific to generate kapp packages. So the limitation that I did in like in the so kapp is like the broad manager where you can cycle off your, and then I integrated this kapp project here. So basically it was a score YAML. So I have like a very lean example here of image and Nginx, and I have the metadata, and then it reads this file here and loads states directory. So you read a very good library called ScoreGo, where you read state from the local directory. You render, you decode this score that, and kind of load this score inside this. You're going to consume the inside your score. You read directly from the state. That's a good thing. So you can save things in the state. You treat that. You need to call like the validate of the mapper. So they have like a in JSON where it validates if the file that are passing as a score YAML exists. So we validate that. This is spec to a type. They have like specific type from this JSON. They generate some types with some internal. Remember, generate this workload type. You start to work with your state from here. So from this, you have the state. There is a YAML. You decode this YAML. You validate the YAML being passed. You map this spec, this YAML to a spec type, and you merge the spec type, and you start to work with the state. Then in the here, what I did, based on specific manifests the kapp package. So in the last like 5 minutes, let's try to use this code here and generate a new kapp package and install in our cluster, right? I have a running cluster running. There is no magic. Render manifest I got from the K8s, so it just get this specific type to convert to API objects in the end, to render this back YAML files. Okay, so let's terminal. I have a mail that just a few things clean. Let's delete the package from the cluster. I have a cluster running. Kapp controller. So you need a kapp controller in the old days, but the kapp controller allows you to install repositories, install manifests, install and then reconcile the packages in a very robust way. So I have the kapp controller installed in this cluster, and what I'm gonna do is like to do go run main score kapp. No, I need to go score kapp main, and then I wrote inside the score kapp the folder.
Got like a minute left.
All right.
Sorry to interrupt. Your audio seems conking out here at the end. You're getting more robot voicey, but let's see if that clears up.
Yeah. So basically, you initialize this. And you can deploy that. You deploy and pass a version. All right. Just believe me, this will work. I'm being kicked out from here, so
I got you. I know it's gonna work.
Yeah, and you just reconcile the pages and like think about like Helm install or something, and then that's how you can like translate these things. It's pretty cool. I like the project.
Yeah, it's only been the CNCF for a month, so trying to get the word out on that one. All right, let's see.
Cool.
What do we got coming on up? That basically does it for the day. Thanks, Amim, for hosting. Thanks, everyone, from listening in. We are doing August 15th. Next episode is Cube Edge. All right. Although I don't know who the host is for that one, but I will tweet that as soon as we know. And with that, thanks, Amim. You can have the final word, and then we'll sign off.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. This has been pretty cool. We need to continue this show.
100%. And with that, thanks, everyone. And we'll see you all next week.